Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hang out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
And in this GM91, we answer how to Necromancer.
Jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So this is kind of a player slash GM911 because Andy asked from kind of like both sides of the screen. And as always, we will put that original post email that we got right in the description below. And if you have one for us, send it to nerdarchy@gmail.com. GM911 in the subject line.
All right, so let's get down to it. Players playing a Necromancer and is worried about the animate dead spell taking over combat. How many skeletons, zombies, what have you, is too much for a player to be able to handle. And from the GM side of it, how do you handle en masse?
Yeah, well, Andy's being very considerate because he basically wants to not outshine the other players in the game and hog the spotlight and give them nothing to do in combat. So from the player standpoint, like, here's the thing. It's actually not your problem. That's the GM's problem to figure out. You don't have to figure out anything. If it's in the rules, you're not breaking the rules, and your GM has specifically not told you that you cannot do this, it's not your problem. You don't have to worry about it. How much is too much? I don't know. Your GM's going to figure it out. Now, that being said, if you're playing in my game and you're roaming around the countryside with a horde of undead, yeah, someone's going to show up and they're going to want to talk to you about that. They probably have a sword and it might be glowing with holy power.
So that's the first and foremost. But beyond that, area effect spells, like,
they're not going to last very long.
Skeleton zombies, they're going to bite the dust pretty quickly. So unless you're mowing through hordes and hordes of enemies all the time to refresh your supply and have the spell slots to actually refill that, well, then that's great for that kind of campaign. But necromancers, we've gone through this time and time again. Necromancers don't have the goody two shoes vibe, especially if you're walking around with hordes of undead. So from the player side of it, if the DM's allowing you and you're not having players that are frustrated at the table waiting for their turn, okay, well then that's great. You are going to have to do things to expedite combat if you're being responsible for 30, 40 skeletons and zombies. So I would suggest rolling a lot of d20s at once. Like, you're making all the attack rolls on this dude. Okay, well, there's 6 of them attacking here. I'll roll all of those. Depending upon how your game is progressing and you don't have advanced skeletons and zombies, eventually those things are not going to be able to hit your target reliably unless they're rolling that natural 20. So combat's going to go real quick for you. Okay, they all miss. None of them are 20. Next. Makes it pretty easy in my opinion.
Well, and here's the other thing too. What happens when you encounter things that control undead? Right? Now not only have you expended the resources to have these guys, it might get flipped against you. Clerics could come along and start dusting your undead like they were nothing. And then again, you've wasted those resources. Your GM's going to have to think of some things, and I don't think that's going to be a huge problem. Matter of fact, though, I would look to Xanathar's Guide to Everything, because you're going to have greater undead in there, and you can summon better, you can create better things and summon better things. That's where you're going to want to go as a player anyway. You're going to want those more powerful undead.
You don't want hordes of skeletons and zombies unless you're barely able to get them, because that's when they're going to be still usable for you. When you can get to the greater undead, that's the spell power that you want to be able to have. Your wights and specters and what have yous.
I mean, and having all those undead around all the time is going to be great for your rogue. Like, he's always going to have an ally, so he can, like, sneak attack. You can even send them off with a couple of these guys, and, like, literally their purpose is to provide your rogue with an ally.
Yeah, I mean, even when you're at the skeleton and zombie level of, like, okay, don't attack, cause an issue. So he's going to give the aid another action and cause the rogue to be able to get advantage. Increase those chances for the crit on those sneak dice.
Well, or any of your other of the other players in the game, they might actually be more useful that way. in giving the other characters advantage. So in that case, they're actually then enhancing the rest of your party members. There's not a huge problem for them.
And when they're just doing the aid another, there's no dice being rolled.
Yeah,
So it's
they're
not
just
slowing
there.
anything up. It's actually giving the benefit, to another player. Same dice would normally be rolled, but it's going to produce on the average a better result.
Right, and then you brought up the good point as well. Is like you're always going to need a supply of bodies so that you can make skeletons and zombies from them. So like there's definitely some things that your DM can bring up, and it might cause other adventures to happen because well you're walking around with undead. Now you're being hounded or hunted by a church. So I don't think it's a really huge issue. I think for the other players in the game, especially if once you start getting higher level, it's not going to matter. They're not going to be relevant. And then when you start using spells that gives you better undead, well, there's not going to be the sheer numbers anyway.
Right. And then you brought up at the beginning that there will be potentially powerful NPCs that want to have a conversation, and that conversation could be at sword point. So it makes a challenge and gives the GM extra tools to really challenge you. Okay, well, are you a good necromancer or you are an evil necromancer? If you're trying to be the good necromancer, then there's whole websites and videos all on this stuff. But if you're trying to be that good guy, then that's going to make some challenging role-playing scenarios for you. If you're the evil necromancer, well, then just be the evil necromancer.
Well, that's going to also create some different kinds of challenging scenarios for you as well. But even if you are playing good and you just have the idea, well, I just use the corpses; they don't matter anymore; they're dead. Well, it's still people. There's many people that have taboos and many cultures have taboos about playing with dead things. So there is that, and then what happens if you're animating someone's loved ones and they're kind of like I don't really like that. I think it's disrespectful and rude at the very least. If you aren't actually in league with Satan himself, at the worst. So there's definitely opportunities like that are to come up. Or what if you start getting contacted by powerful beings like Orcus going, it's kind of my stick here, the undead and stuff. You're good at it. I think you work for me now. Maybe cultists start showing up from Orcus. And so there's definitely things that can be done from the DM side to make things more interesting. Or maybe you want to start your own cult. Maybe one springs up around you didn't even try. They're like, oh, you raise undead. We like undead. We're going to follow you. You are now our leader. What do you do about that? What if you're a good necromancer and the people you're attracting aren't good? They're like, you must be a bad guy
because you got all these undead.
We want to follow you. Show us how to sack and raise the next town. You're like, no, that's not what we're doing here. What do you mean that's not what we're doing here?
So are you the kind of character that you leave your undead outside of town and you just walk into town reeking of death? Or do you literally just try to
have a parade?
Yeah, hey, how you doing? Just your friendly neighborhood necromancer
with a parade of undead behind me.
Leave those
entertaining
alone.
Send us your children.
Oh my!
We will entertain them.
So lots of different things that you do. I hope that
I love the idea.
Circus.
Well, there's that too, but I love the idea of you leave them outside of town, and the next day you go to find them and they're just gone. They're just missing. Where'd they go? I just told them the standard. They only literally do what I tell them to do. Mm-hmm. Someone's come. They've taken control of your undead, and now maybe they're like terrorizing the countryside. And like technically, you're kind of responsible because you made the weapons, right? And you left them out for anybody to come along and take.
Yeah, just any old person that's got the ability to control undead
by the horde. So as a GM, I don't know. I would have fun with it. I'm not really a huge fan of necromancers
as players.
As players, they really kind of speak of the bad guy to me. But
game. If the DM has allowed it and everybody's cool with it, then by all means. I've seen it tried to happen, and I don't know. I'm still not convinced that the necromancer is the good guy.
Especially the necromancer that walks around with a horde of undead.
Yeah.
It kind of says something about a guy or a gal. Anyway, guys, what do you think? We got a place for that? That's down in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can head over to Patreon and support us there.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.